I would like, with your permission, to dedicate this year for the zchut for the 3 yeshiva bachars that were taken hostages by terrorists, and that may we merit to hear very good news and they return to their families safe and sound. And so this shir is for Yaakov Naftali ben Rachel, Gilad Michael ben Bat Galim, Eyal ben Iris Shura. So may Hashem return them to their families speedily and healthily and in one piece. So let's start. I want to do something that normally we do this, but we haven't done it yet because we needed to bank a few chapters. And we're going to do a very, very quick review so that everyone's holding in the sugya, in the Mesilat Yesharim. Because it's very important when you're learning that you are building upon information that you've learned before. If every time you're learning something, it's new, then essentially you're not moving forward, right? Because you're not really building on what you learned before. So I would like to do a very, very quick review of the book. So the reason, what's our purpose in life according to Mesilat Yesharim? Do you remember?
Seek pleasure.
Seek pleasure while serving God. That's the whole point. And how do you reach that level? The only way to do that is through mitzvahs. Remember, that was the piece. It is through the mitzvahs that we connect to God. And when we connect to God, we feel the pleasure. So we serve Hashem through connecting to the mitzvahs. So what else do we learn? We learn, if you remember, that there is something that obstructing us from living like this. What is it? What? The Yetzer Hara, right? You can say it out loud, it's okay.
No, I'm afraid.
You're afraid by saying it that it'll come? You better get used to reality, buddy. So, purpose is to seek pleasure through serving Hashem. How do we serve Hashem? Through the mitzvahs. The only problem is that there is an evil inclination that we are constantly put in a situation where we have to make the right decisions. And if we make the right decisions, then we can seek pleasure in connecting to Hashem. But if we make the worst decisions, then things will go really, really bad. Okay, questions? No, good. Next chapter. So he says, really, how do you get to this level? So the idea is to be very careful, right? And how are we going to be careful? We're going to be careful in 2 ways. We are going to be careful before we do something, and we're going to be careful after we do something. And we're going to be careful in the things that we shouldn't do and the things that we should do. So we have really 2 categories that are actually 4 categories. Okay. So when we try to establish principles by which we should live, says the Ramchal in the beginning of chapter 3, that everyone should have a very, very clear understanding of what is good and what is bad. If you don't have a clear understanding of what is good and what is bad, you don't know when to be careful. Because you could be completely off. And the challenge is in this world, it is as if we're walking in darkness, right? And some of us are walking in darkness by choice because we choose to close our eyes. And some of us are walking in darkness not by choice, that we are not closing our eyes, but we really are in the dark. And there's no really a difference between the 2 reasons. Whether you're doing it willingly or unwillingly, or consciously or subconsciously, the effect is the same. Okay, so the question is, okay, so how do we get out of this? So how do we get out of this? We have to study what?
Mitzvahs.
Torah.
Trick question.
We have to, right, it is a trick question. So in chapter 4, which is where we're going to start, we did a little bit of chapter 4, but now we're just backing up and we're going to do it the right way. Says the Ramchal that the way that we can achieve a level of living carefully, paying attention to our actions, is through limud Torah. Because Torah brings us to carefulness. Okay? How so? Why do you think learning Torah will make you more careful?
Because in Torah you get the mitzvahs.
Because in the Torah you get the mitzvahs. Okay, so what?
Studying Torah is a path to righteousness.
It gets you to righteousness, but in what way? How is it? Yes.
It teaches you the difference between right and wrong.
It teaches you how does the Torah teaches you difference between right and wrong?
Whatever is wrong, Hashem says don't do.
So there's aspects of the Torah that Hashem says, do this, don't do that. Good. But the Torah is not all like this. Did you guys read the last week's Parsha?
Shalach.
Yeah.
Pasat Shalach? So was there any mitzvahs there?
Yeah.
Tzitzit and Challah, right? But the rest, the beginning of the Parsha, the first few aliyahs, what was it about? The spies. So we see that in the Torah there's lots of what we would call stories, right? And we learn from the stories, from the events of what's happening to the characters in the Torah, right? From the Meraglim, from Avraham, from Yitzchak, from Yaakov, from Moshe Rabbeinu, and so on. We learn from there the way that they live their life, and we can apply it correctly. That is what he says that we can learn. It's not only learning the mitzvahs, which is certainly the case, learning halacha, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But the Torah gives us lots and lots of examples of people doing the right thing or people doing the wrong thing. And we learn also that sometimes we think that the people in the story are doing the wrong thing, but from the Torah's perspective, they are doing the right thing. I don't want to give examples, but if you push me to the wall, I will give you an example. Does anybody want an example?
Please do.
You have to push me to the wall.
I don't want to.
Here you go. I knew somebody would
He'll be
say.
the man to do it.
Okay? Yaakov Avinu, right? His mother comes to him and says, listen, little Jackie, your father is going to give the blessing, the bracha, to your older brother, Esav. And we don't want that to happen. So I want you to dress up like your brother, go in there and trick your blind father. Right? And get the brachas. So if you're a moral person, would you say that's the right thing to do or wrong thing to do?
In this situation, it was the right thing.
It was the right thing in this
situation.
Why?
Deception for the greater good, because Esau was a
Deception for the greater good. That could lead to so much trouble. I could tell listen, honey, no, she's not my girlfriend. It's for the job, right? Deception for the greater good means the ends justifies the means, and that is not the Torah view.
But in that case,
The Torah's view is not the ends justifies the means. Yes.
It was close. Someone else actually used that quote.
Niccolo Machiavelli.
But no, it's not. We learned this morning that if you're going to save hardship for other people, not yourself, if you're going to save hardship for other people, then you're allowed to lie.
You're allowed to lie.
Certain people, certain situations.
Right. What about the story of Tamar and Judah? Do you know the story? We learned the story in Mesilat Ruth. We studied together Ruth. Sam, you weren't here yet.
when she pretended to be a prostitute.
Yes, so Judah had a daughter-in-law, her name was Tamar. She was married to one of his sons and he died. And so she married the other son and he died also. And there was another son that was a little too young. So Judah said, go home, stay with your parents, and we'll figure this out. And he wasn't going to give her the third son because she married two and they died. And so she heard that Judah is going to be in a certain part of a certain town. So she dressed up as a prostitute and got him to sleep with her and got pregnant. And we would say, that's not right. That's the Torah's view, should not be. Right? So there are 3 levels of Torah learners. And you get to decide which one you are. I'm not going to decide for you. So he says really that when a person is learning the Torah is going to affect on him depending on what level the person is in. He says the higher level is people who have shlemei da'at. They have the perfect da'at. Right? Anybody know what da'at is? Knowledge, right? They have their mind works very well, and they've learned before. Then there's people who are just below them, and then there are the masses, right? Which none of you are the masses. Let's hope. So he says, the Ramchal tells us that the people on the highest level, right? We have 3 levels. The highest level, what happens is when they are learning, when you learn a text, what does a text supposed to do to you? There are people who believe that they read a text like this, and it says, and it's very boring. The purpose of a text is to awaken something in you. I call it the challenge. Something in the text is supposed to bug you, to bother you, to get you like, wait a minute, why does it say this? And then you have to start arguing against the text. But why? It's not like this, it's not like this, it's not like this. And then slowly, your opinion and your mind changes to accept what the text says as true. All right. So when someone who has learned Torah and has the mind has been perfected or reached the level of completion, what they believe is that they know that the only thing that they should seek in life is to reach a higher level of completion or perfection. That is, they've learned enough Torah to know that really what we should pursue is a higher level of perfection, because the more complete I am, the closer I am to Hashem. And the closer I am to Hashem, then the more pleasure I will receive. That's the thought process. And they understand that there's nothing worse than having a chisaron. What's a chisaron? Does anybody know what a chisaron means? Nope. A lacking. You're missing something. Chisaron. So when someone has a chisaron, it means he's not complete. And when you have something that is not complete, it means to that degree you're going to be farther from Hashem. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that in the world to come, what is the punishment? It's not that they're going to beat you. It's not that they're going to, burn you. It is that you are going to be aware exactly of how far you are from Hashem, and that there is nothing you could do about it. Nothing. But you will know that if I did one more mitzvah, I would move up to this far. And if I didn't do that sin, I would be even closer. That awareness is enough. So I remember this is a good vort. Do you know what a vort is? Like a good lesson that you could learn. So there was a Fraser show that they went to some sort of a spa, and they had the silver room, silver treatment, and they get there and there's a door which is gold, and they're like, "Ooh, I wonder what's behind this gold." And he told them, "Well, if you pay another $1,000, you get to," and they go, and it's nicer robes and it's nicer slippers, and there's a door that is platinum, and they're like, "Oh, what is this?" That to get to the other side, it's another 2,000. And so they pay the money and they get, "Oh my God, this is plush, this is amazing, those suckers and the silver and the gold." And then there is another door which is diamond, and they say, "What is this?" "Oh, this, for $5,000, if you pay, you get behind, like really behind this door." They pay and they find themselves in the alley. Really is, that's what happens in the physical pleasures. You think you're going to get higher, you're going to feel more and feel more and feel more. In the end, that last drink is going to cause you to puke. Right? I've never drank to a point where I was, never, so I don't know. But I heard from the guys. Right? Is that what the case? Isn't that it's what the case is? Anybody want to confess? Right? There is a point where you should stop, and you go, one more. It's like the all you can eat buffet where it's all you can eat.
Shabbos.
Is that what you call it? All right, good. So the highest level, they understand that the goal is really to complete themselves, to seek perfection, and to stay away, to try to fix any sort of lacking. And then they understand that the mitzvahs and the midos, our moral virtues, are not simply, but they are means towards our perfection. That the mitzvot and our moral characteristics are ways for us to become more complete and more perfected. And hence the reason that they are learning Torah is because they want the perfection. And that's what they're doing. And so they're willing to exert themselves and to work harder and have chumras, right? Do more stringent things in order to get more perfect and more perfect and more perfect. Until they reach a level that is called yirat achet, fearful of sinning. That is, they reach a level that they are in a state, it's a state of mind, where they are fearful of sinning. And that is a very high level, because this way they are constantly thinking if there's anything in them that is really limiting their ability to perfect or complete themselves to get to a higher level.
Reach that level while still having troubles with specific sins?
Well, it's a good question. If yirat chet, do we understand it as simply an awareness? So you are aware of it, but it's you're not acting upon it. He seems to say that it is something that you are going to actually do. It's not simply an awareness, but the awareness affects a behavior. And this is very, very important for all of us. It's very important. There's lots of things that we know, or we are aware, or we're conscious of, or we're thinking. But the question is, does it change our behavior? Is it changing our behavior? If it's not changing our behavior, then what do you need the awareness? So you could say, at least I'm halfway there. At least I have the awareness. That I grant you. Right, that is better. But it's not enough. If you're not applying that awareness to your behavior, to your habits, to the way you live your life, then what do you need? The awareness is not enough. Okay. Next level. The lower level says, when they are learning, they are seeking honor. Which is a very, very difficult concept, because people want to argue against it. But if you really think about it, many people, what motivates them are three things. Honor, jealousy, and what's the third? Desire. Taivas. Taivas. Yeah. Kin'ah, ta'ava, v'kavod. Those are the three things. Kin'ah, ta'ava, v'kavod. And he's saying there are people who study the Torah. They're learning. And they have a sense, they want to be respected. They want people to, treat them nice. They want to move ahead of the line. And he says, in the same way, you could explain to them that in the same way that you want to be honored in this world, and you want people to respect you, and you want people to, show you deference, it's the same thing in the next world. In the next world, the level that you are reaching in this world is going to be the level you are reaching in the next world. Which means what? That if you have a neighbor that gets more honor in synagogue than you, and you're always resentful, right? Be a better person. If you're a better person, you'll be more complete, and in the next world, you're going to be on a higher level. And so you see that he's using their motivation to say, if that's the level of your understanding, and that's how you live your life, then you have to understand that the world to come, that condition also plays a role. So that over there you think you're not going to be embarrassed. Over there you're also going to be embarrassed, because you're going to see your neighbor standing, 20 people in front of you in the buffet. As he walks past you, he's going to wave hello to you. And you're going to be embarrassed. All right. So that's the idea of the kavod. That even in the next world, there are people that are going to be different levels. And since you want to be at a higher level, and you're pursuing because you want to be in a higher level in this world, then understand that there's going to be higher levels in the next world. So you should work hard in this world so you can get a higher place in the buffet. Okay, now, he says, I'm just skipping a little bit. He says, now what do we talk about the lower level, the people who are lower. He says the difficulty is for them, it's very hard to speak to them about the veracity, the truth of life, our immortal condition, and where we're going to go. And it's going to be very, very hard, and they're not going to really understand it. And they don't really have the patience to work on themselves. There's lots of people who are, what's it called? Instant gratification, right? I'm putting down $10 and I want to get satisfied. I want food, right? I go to In-N-Out Burger, it's not a commercial. I go to the kosher In-N-Out Burger, right? Or whatever burger joint there is near you, the Glad Kosher, right? The Eida Haredi. You pay, you put money down, and you get food. And there's lots of people that's how they live their life. I want out of life what I put in. And I'm willing to put in as long as I get. But we learned in the beginning of the book, the Ramchal says, that really this world is to prepare us for the next world. And what we do in this world, we're essentially building, as the Nefesh Chaim says. Nefesh Chaim says that when it says every Jew has a portion to the world to come, right? Le'olam haba. What does it mean? That each one of us during this life is building our olam haba. We're building our share in the next world. It's not that it exists and is ready to go. It's not like your condo that is waiting. You are building the condo by every mitzvah, every behavior, every habit, slowly and slowly, but brick by brick, you are building it. And if you don't build it right, guess what? It's going to leak. And you can't blame anybody else except your rabbi. No, yourself. My parents. It's their fault. Did you want to ask something?
Yeah. Mitzvahs that you start a rolling ball while you're still alive to get uplifted from your current position after
Say that again.
a mitzvah that you started before you died.
Like what?
Like
Starting a foundation.
Starting in yeshiva.
starting yeshiva. All the people who learn in yeshiva.
Funding the yeshiva. You don't need to start a new one. There's enough. Fund this one. Right? Okay, so you're funding the yeshiva. Yeah.
Funding yeshiva, and you send a big check and then you die. Right? Check gets cleared. Great. And
So do you remember? Good question. So do you remember we had a lunch in this room with the Rosh Yeshiva Shlita, Rav Schiller, and Rav Schiller said that every year Yahrzeit, remember he started the story that he had to daven somewhere in Manhattan. Anyway, that every Yahrzeit, every year of the anniversary of a person's death, there is an evaluation on the effect of that person's life in the world. So let's say when the check was sent, it affected 0 because the check wasn't cash. The following year, the check affected 100 guys, and 100 guys were learning, they were steiging. So they come and they say, hey, move up to the line. And you're moving up, and then the next year, it's not only those 100 guys, it's another 100 guys. And they're like, oh, come on, now you've got a table up in the, in the balcony with your own server, right? The whole thing. That's the idea, yes. Yes. Baruch Hashem. Because it means that for all of us, but it also goes the other way. That is, if you did something bad that will continually affect people, you're going to pay for it. And, this time you went to the pool of boiling hot water that's up to here. And then there's like, they move it up, next year is here. Then it's like here. Then it's like, no, you can't go any higher. It's right here. And the whole time you're like, right? And then after the next year is like here and you're, yeah. It goes both ways. That's why there's a lot of responsibility. That's why the Ramchal is saying, live your life by thinking about every act that you do, what are its implications. Don't just act like an animal. An animal acts based on instinct. But we are not animals. We are capable of much, much more. And you have to think about it. You have to think about what you do. And you have to think about what you will do. So when you know that you're going to be faced in a new situation, spend some time thinking about it. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? What shouldn't I say? What shouldn't I? That's the idea that he talked about in the early chapter. Take some time every day, sit in isolation, sit by yourself, hitbodedut, and think about it. How did I behave today? Did I do everybody right? Did I do something wrong? I davened today. Did I daven the best that I could? Did I do that? Whatever it is, try to make it better and grow from it. And that's the idea that you're not going, that because everything that you do, there's implications for it. Serious implications. We see from the Meraglim in last week's Parsha. They come back and they say, listen, the land, yeah, it's beautiful, but these people, we can't defeat them. What happened? 40 years. They're stuck in the desert. Because the people cried, it says in the Midrash that Hashem says, you cried here for no reason, you will cry for the rest of the generations on Tisha B'Av. Yes?
What if you know what's right, but you don't feel like you're spiritually there yet?
I think that's an excuse. Yeah. I think we will have to sit. I'm giving you a general answer. Because, listen, I'm not there yet, what? I'm not there to do what? Did God give you a commandment which you cannot do? No. So that means that you can do it. So the question, when you say, I'm not there yet, means I don't want it yet. I don't want it yet.
Do it, but it wouldn't, for me, it wouldn't have satisfaction, pleasure.
So maybe that's why you should do it anyway. It says, if is the purpose.
If you feel it, if you want to do it, not that someone forces you to do it.
Listen, the Torah works like this. God says, bring a goat. Does he ask you if you wanted to bring the goat?
No.
Does he say, if you feel like it, bring the goat? If you connect, says, bring the goat. You have to bring it. You have to do it. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah means you do it. And you say, well, I'm not really connecting to the mitzvah. I don't really feel it, Rabbi. I don't feel it. So I'll tell you what I said to somebody else today. Feelings? Feelings are for girls.
But they heard God's voice. That's something else. You hear God's
Does the
voice,
Torah
you're gonna have
does the Torah say that this Torah is only for those who heard God's voice? If you have not heard God's voice, press 2.
But reading a text and hearing God's voice are two completely different things.
Yes?
You gotta have faith, bro.
Oh,
But that goes to spirituality, right?
faith?
It's too much spirituality.
Emunah is also something that is here. It's your mind.
But this gets involved.
This is your heart. It's just a muscle. Unless you're pointing to your chest. Your heart. Your heart is a muscle that pumps. Right? You're talking about the neshama. So the neshama, it's a bigger, again, I don't know what you're talking about. We're talking very much in general. But if you're telling me, I don't feel it yet, do I have to do the mitzvah? Yeah. Of course. I'll give you an example. For me, it's very, I don't connect to the 4 species on Sukkot. I don't understand why I have to take a bunch of leaves and shake them. And I always wonder when I'm in a shul going around with the leaves, right, that if the National Geographics would walk in and film us, they would think like we're crazy. Just think about it. Everyone with taluses over their head, walking around with these leaves, going like this, walking in circles, singing, and people would say, what are they doing? What are they doing? But I do it. And yeah, I don't connect to it personally. Does that mean that I'm not chayav to do it? I'm chayav. And I teach my kids, and I get them one, and I walk around with them, and I sing with them. But to me, it's hard. So why do I do it? I saw a very good, interesting explanation by Rav Saadia Gaon. Rav Saadia Gaon says, if everything in the Torah made sense to you, or felt good and you did it, how do you know that you're doing what you're doing because you actually believe in God? It is only when God commands you to do something that makes no sense to you, and you're willing to do it because you believe in God, you are proving to yourself that you believe in God. And that's how I look at it. I am doing it because I believe in Hashem. And if Hashem said that I need to do it, it's a mitzvah and I am doing it. Do I understand it? No. But it's not about me. It's about Him. And my perfection and my completeness is about getting it into my head that this world is not about me, it's about God.
Whether we have belief in Hashem or not, we still have free will. So
Correct? I agree?
What I think he's saying is maybe he's not ready to do it yet, as in you need to take your time with everything, like you can't do everything at once, so, you know.
Listen, if he's asking me for a heter, permission not to do a mitzvah, I'm not the guy that would.
I'll give you an example.
Okay, it's time for mincha. So you and I can talk privately, we don't need to do it on camera. See you tomorrow.